members. I'm Sarah Deets. I'm a health fitness instructor here at Bryan LifePointe. I've been here on and off for about 10 years, and I also am a LIMHP. It's a licensed independent mental health practitioner. I'm not currently practicing right now, but I wanted to help you kind of navigate this stressful time, and Jodi's here with me, and we're going to talk to you about stress management and how it physically can affect you as well as emotionally and mentally affect you, and we're going to give you some helpful tips that'll help you kind of navigate this right now.
Thank you, Sarah. I'm going to start us out. I'm Jodi Sudik, and obviously I work for LifePointe Bryan Health as well. I've been with Bryan Health, the organization, for 30 years, and I teach a variety of different programs. And I have a certification as an American College of Sports Medicine exercise physiologist. So we're going to start talking about the physical effects of stress. I'm sure many of you have heard of the fight or flight syndrome. This is a mechanism that our body has for survival. So many, many years ago, our method of surviving, we were either being chased. Think of a caveman. We were either being chased or we had to chase. And so our bodies adapted to that. And what happens is when you perceive a stressor, your body automatically, adrenaline, cortisol, and all these other hormones are released into your system. And what these do is they cause your heart rate to increase, your respiratory rate, your muscles become more tense. You increase the blood glucose and blood cholesterol in your system to give you energy. And that is why you probably have heard before about mothers lifting cars off of their children. This would be a prime example of your body reacting to this fight or flight syndrome. Now, unfortunately, in this day and age, most of the stress that we experience is not physical. So we would want that to happen if we were being chased or if we were being physically threatened. But the majority of us what we experience is mental and emotional stress. Let me give you an example. Sarah, feel free to pipe in. All right, so let's say your alarm goes off in the morning. You noticed you're late. Okay.
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah. So then you automatically are panicking because you know that you have to show up. Maybe you're going to present a meeting or you have an important appointment at work or something. And so automatically those hormones, the adrenaline, the cortisol, your brain perceives this and then they go into your system. So then you jump out of bed, get ready, and you're in the middle of a traffic jam. Same thing. Your body reacts by your mind perceiving this is a stress. And so again, all of these hormones are dumped into your system. You're going to have increased heart rate, muscle tension, respiratory rate, so on and so forth. So then you get to work. Find out you're in trouble for being late. Same thing happens. Now this could happen over and over and over without your even having the ability to stabilize. Okay, you're in this constant stress or panic mode. And then you get home, and you have to deal with your teenager. And then you have to deal with something else. Now, when this happens day after day after day, it becomes chronic. And that's why stress can cause disease. If you have chronic stress, it will cause or can cause heart disease, pulmonary disease, unnecessary muscle tension, which can cause chronic headaches. It can affect your gastro system, where you have ulcers. It also, if people are constantly under stress and that blood glucose or cholesterol is being dumped into their system, that can cause them to have elevated cholesterol levels or blood glucose levels, which of course can lead to diabetes. So what can you do to remedy this? Well, there's a lot of things you can do to remedy it. The first thing would be to actually practice the fight or flight. And what do you think that means? That means exercise. So if you spend time exercising, this is going to help counteract those hormones that are built up in your system. You have two nervous systems, the parasympathetic and the sympathetic. So these stress hormones are what causes this sympathetic nervous system to react. But we want the parasympathetic nervous system to bring things back down to a normal level for you. And so exercise or things like relaxation, mind-body exercise such as yoga, tai chi, meditation, any of these things can help counterbalance. Even simply walking your dog, doing something that you enjoy every day. But it's important that it's something that you do on a daily basis so that you do not build up this constant stress. Another thing that you can do is change your perception. So for example, what makes me feel stressed out may not necessarily make Sarah stressed out. It's how you react. So maybe let's say Sarah's alarm goes off and she's late. She doesn't care. She says, well, I'll just call work and tell them, you know, I'm not gonna make it. So she doesn't even, you're not gonna make it at all, and maybe just not make it to the meeting. But so right away, she's perceiving it completely different than I am. Maybe she gets into a traffic jam and there's nothing she can do about it. She can't control it, so she decides to just put in a relaxation DVD and deal with it. Maybe she gets to work and she just explains, you know, I'm only human, this is what happened. So a lot of it is in the perception. That's how it all starts. If we don't panic, if we can look at it in a different light, that's going to help tremendously. So you can, you know, there's some things that we just can't change. You know, you have to either accept or adapt to that. For example, I do not like to drive, okay? So driving just stresses me out. I don't care for it, whereas someone else, they may love driving, and maybe it's an opportunity for them to be by themselves. They just enjoy that time alone. But what can I do? I mean, well, I could bike or walk or have somebody drive me. These are all things I could do to adapt. Could I take another route? Why am I stressed from driving? Do I not give myself enough time? These are all things that are under your control and you can do something about. It's very important too, like I mentioned, that you spend some time doing something that you enjoy. So no matter how busy or how complicated life can get, you want to spend some time doing what you enjoy. What do you like to do?
I like to exercise.
I like to exercise too. But as crazy as this sounds, I like to watch scary movies. See, now some people do not like that. That actually helps me to relax. So that's why it's important to find what works for you individually. Not necessarily what works for me or Sarah, but what makes you feel better. Okay, so that's really in a nutshell what happens physiologically with stress. And so what we want you to do is be aware of what's happening in your body. And then we want you to try to counterbalance those stress hormones with relaxation, mind, body, exercise, spending time with your animals, taking a walk, which of course is exercise, anything you can do to help counterbalance that. And then we also want you to have try, this is a behavior, so it does take some time, but we want you to try and look at the positivity in things. Right now, our world is very complicated, but we can still find good. We can find good in things. And I think a lot of people realize that, like staying home, they're able to spend more time with their families, with their children. People are able to get out more. I see, you know, more people walking and biking outside and enjoying the outdoors. They may not have had that time before to do this. So if we have a whole different perspective of, I can't control what's going on around me, but I can control how I react and what I do about it. Do you have any other inputs?
One thing I was going to mention is there's a difference between good stress and bad stress. Like Jodi talked about watching scary movies. That's good stress for her. That would be bad stress for me. So really identify what's good stress versus bad stress for you, because there is a difference. I've had friends say, you know, planning my wedding was the best thing ever. It was great stress. I loved it. Made me stay on top of things. And for me, my wedding was a mess. So that was really bad stress for me. But it's just in how you view your stress and how you deal with your stress. The other thing I wanted to point out is we always get asked, well, how much exercise, how long do I have to exercise to decrease the cortisol levels? And some of the research that we've shown and we've seen, the new research is really saying you don't have to exercise for 20, 30 minutes, even if you can do 5 minutes here or there. As long as you make it part of your daily activity, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there. We want you about 20 to 30 minutes every day if you can. If all you can do is 5 minutes, that's going to help decrease those cortisol levels.
Yes, and what you mentioned, yeah, the distress is bad and eustress is good. So we want a little bit of both, but not too much of either.
Right.
Okay, so it's about balance. But like she mentioned, if you don't have time to go do a 20-minute exercise session, just take a walk. You know, do what you can, because that, again, your body is counterbalancing with that fight or flight. It doesn't have to be intense exercise. So, thank you.
The other thing I wanted to mention is people sometimes don't understand how cortisol works, and I'll kind of touch on this a little bit later, but when you exercise, your cortisol levels actually go up. And then when you're done, they decrease. So that's why we want you to exercise, because when you're exercising, that fight or flight phenomenon kicks on, then adrenaline goes up, and that cortisol shoots up, and then it goes down. And that's what we want. We want it to come down. So we don't want that steady state all the time. We want it to go down. But it's important with exercise to enjoy what you're doing. If you are a person who hates to run, as health fitness instructors, we would not say, go out and run 20 minutes because you hate it. So there's no point to it. You gotta find something that you enjoy, and that might be doing yoga or relaxation or balance or kickboxing or anything, but find what you enjoy and really practice that.
And the mind-body, interestingly enough, the mind-body activities actually bring your cortisol levels down. So they have a little bit different effects. So.
Well, thanks, Jodi.
Thank you.
All right, so now I'm going to talk to you about how stress can really impact your emotional and mental health. I'm going to talk a little bit about your brain, and I know we could spend a lot more time on the brain itself, but I really want to just focus on two aspects. And so the hippocampus is located in the center of your brain, and basically it's responsible for memory, learning, and hormone production. And so when you're stressed, as Jodi said, your hippocampus releases the cortisol, and it does some really interesting things to your brain. For example, it's released, the hippocampus is turned on, and it actually slows the other parts of your brain. So what I mean by that is your cortisol is so focused in the center of your brain that all the other hormones are dealing with decreasing the cortisol levels. So they're not working on identifying new neurons or new pathways or problem solving. They are solely focused on decreasing the cortisol. And so research shows that because those chemicals are so focused on decreasing cortisol, you're going to have problems with learning new activities, you're going to have muscle problems, you're going to have memory loss, problem concentrating, problem sleeping. A bunch of different options are going on because that cortisol release. So we want to keep that cortisol low as we can. The second thing I wanted to talk to you about is the amygdala. And again, when cortisol is released, that really can kind of mess up your sleep. And what I mean by that is we've always heard that, you know, if you're stressed, you want to relax before you go to sleep. Of course you want to, but if you're stressed, your adrenaline's pumping, your cortisol is in your system, and you may not sleep. And so that's a big trigger that can lead to not only anxiety, but also depression. One of the big key symptoms and signs of depression is A, sleeping a lot, or B, not sleeping at all. And that's the cortisol that can have that dual impact. So if you're feeling like you're not sleeping, sleeping too much, or a bunch of other signs and symptoms, we encourage you to reach out and get some help for that, okay? The other thing is your brain actually shrinks, interestingly enough, because the cortisol is released, and like I said, the other chemicals aren't focused on building new neurons, which they usually are, so that part of your brain actually shrinks. And so there's some evidence whether or not there's a connection between stress and Alzheimer's. And they're still really working on, does that cause the memory issue with Alzheimer's, or is there a link to that? And so cortisol, we want to keep that level down as much as we can. As I said, it can also lead to anxiety and depression and PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. One of the questions we've gotten asked a lot is, will COVID-19 be equivalent to World War I or other traumatic events? Will people have PTSD from this? And the answer is they sure could. PTSD is just a traumatic event. It can be a car accident. It can be a loss of a job, a loss of a loved one. There's really no rhyme or reason why some people get PTSD for certain things. And so they're really watching to make sure that if you have the underlying conditions of anxiety or depression, that you're not triggered, and that COVID-19 isn't triggering more PTSD in the future. There's a new article from, I think, CNBC that's focusing on PTSD right now, and it's a really good read. So if you guys have time, I would encourage you to go check on that. It's PTSD with COVID-19. Okay, so that's a little bit about how the brain works. So now I get the fun job of telling you how to help decrease the levels of cortisol and how to help you relax a little bit. So Jodi talked about exercise and how important that is. And I can only second that because exercise is so important for so many things. So when the cortisol is released, exercise is going to help decrease the blood pressure, decrease the cholesterol, decrease the glucose, all the kinds of physical activities that go on with that. But it's also going to help you think more clearly. One of my favorite things to tell people is if they're stressed or things like that, or they're just not thinking clearly, to go exercise, because that's going to help those neurons process faster and help you think more clearly. Okay. So I have two types of strategies and then also some fun tips for you guys. So strategy number one is the power of positivity. And this is the part where everybody rolls their eyes and says, are you for real? The answer is yes. The power of positivity is a real thing, and it can be very effective if you put it into practice, like anything else. So we realize that this is a very difficult time for everybody, but what is something positive you could take from this? Jodi, do you have any examples of something positive from all of this?
I have actually been able to spend more time. I work in a job, a position where your major concern is other people. You're teaching classes for other people. You're focusing on your clients, and I have been able to focus on myself a little more, so I'm able to do the things that I enjoy. Now, when we say things that you enjoy, I want to just reiterate, we want you to be healthy. So we are talking about healthy activities. And that would include good nutrition as well, which we're not going to elaborate on today, but we don't encourage you, well, I feel better after I have, 3 martinis. And you might, but that's just a quick fix. So not that we don't want you to enjoy life, but just remember we're encouraging healthy activities. So yes,
Very good.
That's what I've noticed. I get to spend more time with my dog.
Yeah.
In fact, a lot of these shelters now are empty because people are adopting and fostering dogs.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah.
Yep. And so what I want you guys to think about is, in your life right now, with all the negative aspects, what's something that you can change and think more positively about? It might be that you get to try a new recipe. It might be that you get to clean your garage. It might be that you get to scrapbook more if you like to scrapbook. Now that's a bad stress for me, so that wouldn't work for me, but if you enjoy things like that, it might give you a chance to do that right now. The other thing I wanted to add to that is a quote that I found that I thought was really appropriate. And it said, a positive person anticipates happiness, health, and success between he or she, and they can overcome any obstacle and difficulty. So I liked it because what if we view things more positively? And I don't know if this is just me, but it can be overwhelming when those negative thoughts come in, and you just kind of keep spiraling with those negative thoughts. It's like you woke up late and you were late to your meeting, and you just wake up and say, well, that day is shot, now what? And that just negative thought comes in and it stays with you all day long. Well, what if, instead of thinking negatively about it, you change it to be more positive? And I realized that no one likes to be late for work, no one likes to be stuck in a traffic jam, but what if you could see it for a more positive outlet, okay? Jodi talked about maybe listening to music on the way to work and kind of helping you relax that way. Or maybe rolling down your window and enjoying the sunshine. There are positive aspects in everything that we do. You just gotta look for them. So that's strategy number one. Strategy number two is mindfulness. And mindfulness is a big word right now. Basically, mindfulness just means being present in the moment. So right here and right now. And that's easier said than done. It's really hard not to worry about the future. It's really hard not to worry about the past. And so if you can just focus on right now, what's something you can control right now? And I will be the first to admit that I love being in control. I'm very type A, and I want to be in control. Things work better when I'm in control. And so this has definitely been a challenge for me. But some benefits of mindfulness is it increases your attention. It also increases your sleep. It decreases your stress. It helps with pain. It also lowers blood pressure. And it really just helps you feel more centered with things. So basically, it's just a non-judgmental state of awareness, okay? So Reader's Digest published 10 tips to help you be more mindful. And I'll just read through them and maybe give you a few examples. Number one is do one thing at a time, okay? Now, this one drives me crazy because I love to do multiple things, multiple ways, multiple times. So one thing at a time, one thing I've tried to do is on a walk, I try to really focus on my environment and not just going through it, not just thinking about what I need to do, but just really being present in the moment. Like, what birds do I hear? What trees do I see? Is it sunny out? Is it raining out? So being present in the moment. Number two, do it slowly and deliberately, okay? And that to me just really means enjoying what you do right now, okay? I realize that it's hard to enjoy cleaning. If you love cleaning, God bless you, I don't. But it just means do it slowly and do it well and enjoy it. Number three is do less. And when I was thinking about this, it might just be maybe try not to be so overwhelmed with things. If there's something that you maybe you're feeling pressured to do at work, or if you feel like you need to wash those dishes right now, or it's gonna bug you, maybe just wait for a few minutes and do something for you first. Okay. Number four, put space in between things. And what that means is if you put 5 minutes from task to task and just take 5 minutes to deep breathe, you're gonna enjoy that next task a lot better, a lot more. Number five is probably my favorite. It is spend at least 5 minutes a day doing nothing, okay? Now that maybe is something that we haven't had before. We haven't had 5 minutes just to enjoy, but in 5 minutes, it might just be using some guided meditation or some deep breathing. One of my favorite things is the Calm app. I love this app because it takes you through a guided meditation and you can set your timer, and it's so nice because I don't have to find anything, I don't have to think about anything, it's all right there for you. Number six, stop worrying about the future. So how much time would we spend if we didn't worry about the future? How much time would we save? I know right now we're all worried about the future and what it looks like, what tomorrow looks like, what the next day looks like, but what if we just focus on right now? We talked a little bit about making cleaning and cooking meditation. That's actually on the list, believe it or not. While you're doing dishes, can you meditate? Jodi, could you do that while you're cleaning? Could you meditate?
Well, there's different kinds of meditation. That's a mindful awareness meditation.
Mm-hmm.
Like she said, just being in the moment. Just like relaxation, there's different types of meditation. So people kind of pick and choose what works for them.
Last but not least is one of my other favorites. It says, be present when you're talking to someone. And I think that's really important, especially right now, because in the past, I know that it's been hard to really make it a priority to talk to who you're talking to, especially because we're so focused on other things and multitasking, and I don't know if you guys have done this, but when you're talking to someone and maybe you're texting something else, or you're shopping on your phone, you're like, yeah, no, I know. Do you really listen to what that person's saying? When's the last time you could make eye contact with a person and really have a deep conversation with that one? So this is a good time to do that. We hope that you're reaching out and maybe doing some phone conversations, some Zoom conversations, getting in touch with some people maybe you haven't for a while. And that's also going to help you be more mindful of how you're doing. So those are the strategies. And now for the fun tips. So number 1, make a to-do list. Okay, so I want you to make one every day. And I realize this is going to be a little redundant, but just hang on with me. On a to-do list, I want you to focus on everything you need to get done. And then when you do that challenge, I want you to mark it off, because that's going to give you not only some perspective of what needs to be done, but also a sense of accomplishment when you're done with that. So you can check it off and say, moving on to the next one, okay? Focus on one thing at a time, like we talked about. Enjoy what you're doing in the moment. Don't worry about what needs to come next. Don't worry about needing to do that next little laundry or anything else. Just focus on one thing at a time, okay? Some other things to think about. One of my favorite things to give to clients is a stress ball. I love stress balls because when you're stressed, you squeeze that ball, squeeze as hard as you can, and in my experience, if you're squeezing it here, then you're not thinking about it here. So you squeeze and all that aggression comes out, and then your hand's tired. But it does help relieve that stress. So a stress ball is great. If you don't have one, a tennis ball works just fine. Anything you have at home, any ball you have at home, that'll work just fine too. And the next one is lotion. My favorite is Bath & Body Works Eucalyptus Mint. It's for tranquility and stress relief. Everybody knows when I've had a stressful day because they can smell me coming. I really smell like those scents, and it's great because after a long day, you can just rub it on your hands, on your feet, and it really does help with stress relief. It also helps with sleep. I know that people like lavender. Lavender is supposed to be very calming, so find a scent that works for you. Okay. Jodi talked about relaxation a little bit. One of my favorite things is deep breathing. There are a million ways to do this, but one of my favorite ways is to think of a calming or positive mantra. And so what I do is when I take a deep breath in, I inhale for 5 seconds. And while I'm inhaling, I think, or I try and say, I am. And when I exhale for 5 seconds, I think or say out loud, calm. So breathe in, I am, breathe out, calm. And so the goal to do that is for 2 to 3 minutes, and just try and relax as you're doing that. One thing we get asked a lot is, how do I deep breathe? And there's really no magic to this. We just want to encourage you to really be present in the moment, and it's nice and calm breaths and just relax. I've also heard people really like to close their eyes and pretend they're in a field somewhere or on a mountaintop, and they use their senses to connect with that. So they might say, well, I hear birds chirping, or I feel sunshine, or it's just wherever you feel calm. So that can really help with stress relief as well.
And about 90% of the things that she suggested are actually the yoga.
Mm-hmm.
The awareness, the mindfulness, the relaxation, the breathing. And there really is a better way to breathe. You want to breathe deep into your belly, in your ribs, not the short breaths into your chest. And I was going to say too, like, no matter how challenging your day, I've often done this in relaxation at the end of a yoga class. If it's in the evening, I'll say, no matter how challenging your day was, think of 3 positive things that happened. And I guarantee you can think of at least 3 positive things that have happened. One more thing, when she's talking about really listening to people, there have been studies done that show when you actually really listen to people, your blood pressure decreases. So. Absolutely. Go ahead and finish.
I was just gonna say, I hope those are helpful for you. There are also some other things you can try. There are a million things you can try, but we encourage you just to find a couple that work for you and stick with it.